My name is William Robinson. My health concerns were anxiety and depression, living with chronic back problems, bad knees.
Thank you for coming back to watching Office Hours with my uncle. And I want to introduce my other host.
Nick, welcome back to
Yes.
Office Hours, everybody.
Thank you for being a guest, Unc. So I want to ask you the first question. So you were in the Air Force for 2 years, from 17 to 19. What made you leave the Air Force?
I had orders to go overseas, and they had an earthquake over in the Philippines where I was supposed to be. And so they closed the base over there. They gave me the option to get out when they closed that base down over there. So I took the early out.
When you talk about the early out, you got your education in social work, you know a lot of not just like historical terms about disability, but newer terms about like accessibility needs and things like that. How did you make that transition as far as like, hey, I'm at the Air Force now, and now I'm going to get, into counseling and things like that?
The counseling came a long, long time after that. I'll be honest, at 17, I was very immature. I ran into a lot of systemic racism in the Air Force. It was like a culture shock for me. I left home very immature, wasn't quite ready for the world yet. It was a very different culture for me. Just being told what to do and dealing with type of racism that I dealt with was different from me. I was used to racism, I grew up in a mixed neighborhood, and went to a mixed high school, and I was used to racism, and being around the elements of that, but I really, really experienced it heads on in the military, and it was a culture shock for me, and that with being immature, so when I had the opportunity for the early out, I jumped on it.
You enter school after the military, after, you said you had matured some. Is there anything from a accessibility perspective? Because I know we spoke about, you needed a tape recorder, you needed to sit in the front of the class that you felt like maybe would have helped you now that you even know more than you know then.
Well, at the time, my accessibility needs wasn't at that level where I needed it at that time. My accessibility needs didn't develop until later because my anxiety and depression wasn't at the level it was when I went to school. I went to school like after the military, like just going to junior college, but I didn't take it seriously. I didn't go back to college until 2015 to 2022. And I got 2 degrees in that time frame. So you're talking
That's
like
amazing.
25 plus years, and
So,
within that time, I had went to like I went to Harold Washington Community College in Chicago. I did like a couple of semesters there. I went to like electronic school when I was in Denver. But over the years, my anxiety and depression stemming from that systemic racism over the years, it kind of developed gradually over the years, and just kind of lost my way in life, never, really applied myself to anything much after I left the military, anxiety and depression, and it was undiagnosed. So, I didn't even really know that I had it, I just was acting out through getting high, smoking weed and drinking and partying and not knowing that I had issues that I wasn't facing. And that was like for 2 decades, I just was in anxiety and depression and I never knew it. It was undiagnosed for that whole period of time, like over 20 plus years, until I finally went back to the VA for my benefits, and I started seeking help, for my drinking, and I started speaking with a mental health professional. They said, you want to speak with a therapist? And I said, yeah, and that's when I got and discovered, that I actually had been suffering from anxiety and depression, and that was feeding, my alcoholism and me getting high and getting in trouble with the law, and just my life was in a turmoil, and just unstable for so many years, and not really having any direction in life, and through that process of getting that help and identifying that, um, I found medication helped. And that gave me the stability to get stable and attack the problem head on. And once I did that, actually found God can do what doctors can't do. So, opening up to the mental health profession guided me towards getting the help that I needed at the time. But when the Lord stepped into my life, that just really took me all the way. That's what got me back in school, because I was scared, man. I was scared to try anything in life. I didn't know if I would be able to succeed, but my faith is what got me to go back to school, and Lord just was telling me, don't be scared. Just have faith in me. You can do anything through me, and I surprised myself. A lot of people, was expecting me to do well, but I wasn't expecting to do well. I hadn't applied myself to really anything in so long.
Hearing your life, I really identify a lot with that. Like, I definitely, my mental health took me to where uh I had a plan to end my own life. And that was my, like, trust God moment for myself. And you saying something about, like, people expected you to do well. And my therapist will say something from time to time, that there are people waiting for you to, on your journey, to celebrate you, to support you, to,
Mhm.
if you need a little help here or there, whatever. And I think I've, like, up until this point, like, I've been let down, especially, like you said, you were let down by the Air Force, a lot of systemic racism. You went back to Nebraska and there's a lot of racism there. For me, it was a lot of medical racism, like, and doctors not doing their job. Like, I'm thinking, like, bro, like, I get it, I'm Black, you don't like me, cool, but I'm over here dying, bro. Like, does that not, carry some weight? I'm over here dying, like, you can't muster a little bit of just, I ain't ask, summon no ethics, just summon some humanity. Come on, bro.
Yeah.
And you into that situation enough, and it's like, man, this is just like, it's a lot. And I think the cultural undertone of my upbringing, it's like, you don't even talk about that. Like, you don't talk about, like, anxiety, depression, like, that's not even like a thing. And I remember, I feel bad to this day, and I remember I apologized to her years after the fact. When my grandmother told me she had started seeing a therapist, and I'm like, what? I was like, in the most respectful way I could, I was like, therapist, you putting the family business out to some strange, like, what? I think I may have been like 22, 3, something like that. And so that had never even crossed my mind that you would go talk to some rando about what's going on with you, you know? And so to hear you actually say that like out loud, and even now, like this is my story and this is the truth, but it's still hard to actually say it out loud. Like, and so to hear you actually say, I don't know, gave me a little bit of courage just to be like, yeah, I can, I feel I know where you coming from, and just where did you when you made that leap? Was there any cultural thing that was difficult for you to make that leap to talk to the mental health professional?
It really wasn't for me because I was desperate. I was really desperate and I was seeking help. And I had a strong support system always. My family was praying for me, when I was struggling, So when I started seeing a therapist and seeking mental health, my family, I mean, really my wife and my kids, they was just like, whatever you need, if it's gonna help you, we all about it, because I was struggling that bad, so they was like, they didn't care, where the help came from. If it was help, they was just like, Dad, get it, because they were tired of seeing me struggling, with drugs and alcohol and just acting out and getting in trouble, and they wanted to see their dad heal. So, they embraced it, so it was easy for me to embrace it because I didn't have that feedback, like, oh, but it was hard just to get to that point to go
Yeah,
see them, before, I told my family, just to get to that point, because I know that that's just something we didn't do, and I know, as Black people, we didn't, and there was a reason for that, because I, I educationally already knew that, we get misdiagnosed. Doctors
yeah,
are quick just to write us and give us a pill for anything, without
yeah,
really seeking our medical condition. They will
yeah,
just write us something else, write us off, And so I've heard so many stories of people that that's happened to. I had so many friends that were already seeking mental health, you know, and they were like, man, the doctor's just giving me pills, giving me pills, giving me pills, Knew so many people that were like that already, and I had seen so many people just like walking around like zombies, just all medicated. And I was
mhm,
like, that is not gonna be me. You have to find a doctor that you can really be intimate with, and build a relationship with. You just can't go to any Joe Blow, And my first doctor gave me that.
mhm.
Now after that, I haven't quite had those doctors like I had with my very first one, and that's the one that broke the ice for me. But now, you know, I can see I can get my medication just enough to keep me balanced, and the rest of it I get through my spiritual fitness. You know how they used to say, like back in the day, just go to church, and in your faith, And I was like, sometimes you need more than that. And I needed more than that. I needed to get
Yeah,
stable.
What I want to ask you is, I know the audience doesn't know you're a counselor now, but like, how does having your disabilities and your challenges, how does that help you with how you counsel and guide different people? Yeah, how do you, yes.
Oh man, I tell you, man, for one thing, people that had addictions, they make the best counselors because we've been through it. So we just not learning out a book and giving you the book side of it. We've actually experienced those same addictions and we've experienced what you've been through. So we know both sides of it. We know the side of being in addiction and the side of healing and the side of educating you as well, you know. So I can identify on all levels of actually being in addiction. I can identify um, with the healing process and what it takes to heal. I can identify with the BS about it, you know, and you can't fool me because I've been there and I didn't been there, done that, you know. And I can identify with if people are serious about, you know, trying to get the help that they need, you know. But the most important part is just that I believe that is you have to do it all together and you have to have spirituality with it.
Yeah.
That's a very key component in addiction is spirituality. I'm in AA
Yeah.
and it's a spiritual program, you know, and you have to believe in a higher power when you're in addiction that can help you take away something that you can't take away, you know, because most people in addictions, if they could just take it away themselves, they would do it, you know, they wouldn't seek help.
Yeah.
You know, if you had the strength to do it yourself, if you had the willpower to do it yourself, you know, and most people don't realize though, but those who stop on their own, they don't identify, but it's just that they bless on their higher power. That's
Yeah.
just what's happening. You might not know it, but that's how they did it. They think it's their willpower, but it's the blessing from your higher power. He will bless you, and you might not even know where it came from. Man, I hadn't been to school in so long. Do you know I came out of addiction and I graduated with honors with 2 degrees after being in addiction.
Yeah, that's good. Yes.
Both of my degrees was with honors, and
Uh,
that
Man, that's
wasn't
what's up.
just me. That was my higher power showing me that I can do anything through him.
Yeah.
That's what's up.
I give it to the Lord, not to me, but I give it to my Lord and Savior. That's who I give it to.
Yes, before we get out of here, can you please tell the people like how to give them a few words of like wisdom on what helped you overcome and accomplish things in life?
Never give up.
Yes.
Never give up. I was so desperate. I was desperate. I was desperate for something in life other than what I had. I had a beautiful wife. I had beautiful kids. I had a loving family, and I was miserable.
Yes.
And I was miserable, and I was desperate to enjoy life, man. I was tired of living like I was living. And my words of wisdom is to never give up.
Yeah.
You keep praying and you keep trying and you keep fighting. And I tell you, through the Lord, you can persevere. There's nothing the Lord that is too great for the Lord. If you do all things through the Lord, you will persevere. I tell you, I'm living proof of that.
Yeah.
I am living proof of that. You can't persevere. I'm not just existing anymore. I'm living. I'm enjoying life.
Yeah.
Mm.
You know, I'm healing. I'm mending relationships. I'm rebuilding relationships. I enjoy what's important in life And that's just family, friends, and loved ones, man. You know, understand what's important in life. You know, and it took me a long time to learn that, you know. But life is short, man. Tomorrow ain't guaranteed, man. You gotta enjoy life while you can.
I relate to that advice because I do yoga a lot, and doing yoga, because sometimes I'm like, man, I can't do this thing, or I be feeling tired, or like unmotivated, or just really lost. But one thing in yoga, um, it's always like the breath is life. And one scripture I always go back to is Job chapter 12, verse 7 through 10. In verse 10, it says, in his hand is the life of every creature and the breath of all mankind. And I guess to just hear that about never giving up, because it's rough, but in the hand of your life, this hard, treacherous, arduous road, you know, you surrounded by God, and even in the doubts and the uncertainty. So yeah, it's I relate to that, never giving up.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, Mr. Robinson, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Like, you really, I don't think it's can be stated enough. Just the power of your life. I can't even say just your word, your life. And it's something that I'm just the immediate representation, but I know other people are going to really find encouragement and wisdom and strength in knowing that through God, they can do it too.
There's power in our testimonies.
Yeah. So.
We all learn from each other's testimonies. Each one teach one.
We really do want to thank you, Unc, for being a guest and coming on and telling your story. Thank you guys for watching Office Hours.